Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be looking closely at this book, Choices, Interviewing and Counseling Skills for Canadians.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to be talking all about ethics in professional settings.
Interesting. I'm ready to dive in.
Great. So to start off, let's talk about some key terms.
Okay.
Ethics, we're talking principles, rules that guide good conduct. Basically, it's like do no harm and respecting confidentiality
Okay.
in professional relationships.
Makes sense.
Values, on the other hand, are those personal beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
like what you see as right and wrong.
So ethics are more like external guidelines then.
Yeah.
And values are more internal.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
And the book highlights self-determination as a major value.
Okay.
So that's like respecting someone's right to make their own choices, even if we don't agree with them.
That's important,
It is.
especially in counseling.
Yeah, especially in fields like counseling, exactly.
Yeah.
But there's another layer to this, and that's anti-oppressive practice.
Oh.
And this is kind of recognizing that systems of power and privilege can lead to oppression.
Right.
And it's our responsibility to challenge those systems and advocate for social justice.
So anti-oppressive practice means we're promoting diversity, challenging discrimination, advocating for fair distribution of resources.
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
And it also means like pushing back against oppressive laws and procedures.
Wow.
So it's like really using your professional role to make a positive impact
Yeah,
on a larger scale.
I like that.
Yeah. So now let's tackle something a little bit more concrete.
Okay.
Dual relationships.
Dual relationships.
Yeah, we have a great visual that lays it all out.
Yeah.
You see all these different types of relationships, sexual, business, friendship, social, even accidental encounters.
Right. So this is when you have both a professional and personal connection with someone.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the book emphasizes how tricky these situations can be.
Yeah.
It can really blur the lines.
Yeah. Like imagine trying to be objective with a client who's also your best friend.
Yeah. It's almost impossible.
Right.
That's why the visual also highlights the flip side, appropriate professional relationships.
Okay.
So you have like counselor, teacher, mentor, supporter, advocate.
Right. So these are all professional.
Exactly.
You're keeping it professional.
Keeping those boundaries.
Yeah.
Keeping those professional lines from getting crossed.
Okay. I'm starting to see the importance of boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, confidentiality is another big one.
Okay.
We've got a helpful image that illustrates the key concepts.
Okay. It mentions absolute and relative confidentiality.
Yeah.
What's the difference between those?
So absolute confidentiality is the strictest form.
Oh, okay.
The information is never disclosed to anyone no matter what.
Okay.
It's like a vault sealed shut.
Okay.
But that's pretty unrealistic in a lot of situations.
Right.
That's where relative confidentiality comes in,
Okay.
which acknowledges that sometimes you have to share information.
Right.
Think legal requirements or situations where someone's safety is at risk.
So like if a client says that they're going to hurt themselves or someone else.
Exactly.
Okay.
In those cases, sharing information might be the most ethical choice, even though it means breaking confidentiality.
Right. It's about weighing the potential harms and benefits.
You got it.
Mm.
Now let's dive back into self-determination.
Okay.
This visual breaks down the 5 essential elements beautifully.
Awesome.
Okay, first up, freedom to choose.
Okay.
So clients need to feel empowered to make their own decisions, free from pressure or coercion.
Okay.
That sounds like a basic human right.
It is.
It is a basic human right.
Yeah.
Next, we have control and informed consent.
Okay.
Clients need to have control over the information they share
Right.
and fully understand any decisions being made.
So they're informed and actively participating?
Absolutely. And then there's access to knowledge and information.
Okay.
This is all about giving clients the tools they need
Yeah.
to make those informed choices.
So like providing educational resources or connecting them with services?
Precisely. And of course, we can't forget access to resources.
Yes.
It's about connecting clients with practical support that they need to thrive,
Right.
whether it's housing assistance, healthcare job training, or something else.
Yeah. This one seems super important to me for actually turning those choices into reality.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And finally, involvement in decision-making.
Okay.
So clients need to be active participants in shaping their own lives.
So we're collaborators, not dictators.
Exactly.
Okay.
So by embracing these 5 elements,
Mm-hmm.
we're empowering clients to take charge of their own destinies.
I like it.
Now brace yourself. We're about to dive into the deep end.
Okay.
Ethical dilemmas.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry. This image is going to be our life raft.
Okay.
See how it lays out the 6 key ethical principles.
Cool.
Autonomy, societal interest, fidelity justice, non-maleficence beneficence.
That's a mouthful.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But each one is super important.
Okay.
Ethical dilemmas happen when these principles clash, or when it's not clear which path is the most ethical.
So, like, when you have to choose between two rights, but each choice also has negative consequences.
You're getting it. And the tricky part is that even with all those fancy ethical guidelines, there isn't always a clear-cut answer.
Right.
Sometimes you're in a gray area, and you just have to weigh all those principles against each other.
Wow, that sounds challenging.
It can be.
Huh?
But don't worry, we have another visual coming up that will walk us through a step-by-step process for resolving those ethical dilemmas.
Okay, good.
It's like a roadmap for navigating those tough choices.
I think I'm going to need that.
But before we get to that roadmap, let's talk about something that can really trip us up. Privilege.
Privilege.
Yeah. This visual is a real eye-opener.
Okay.
Look at all these elements. Male, heterosexual, right-handed, employed, white, tall, thin, attractive, young, healthy, educated, wealthy homeowner, articulate, supported, married.
That's a lot.
It is.
Okay.
But each element represents an unearned advantage that some people have simply because of who they are.
Right, like being born into a wealthy family or having access to good education just because of your background.
Exactly. And the tricky part is that we often don't even realize the privileges that we have.
Right.
But they can really impact our professional practice and influence how we see our clients and how we interact with them.
Yeah, so if I'm not aware of my own privileges, I might unintentionally make assumptions or act in ways that are insensitive to my clients.
That's why self-awareness is so crucial.
Yes.
We need to be aware of our own biases and how they might be affecting our work.
It's a lot to learn.
It is.
Mm.
But we're all learning all the time, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about self-awareness itself.
Okay.
Because as you can see, it's at the heart of counselor competence.
All right.
This visual breaks down the key steps involved.
Okay, I'm ready.
First and foremost, understand your impact on clients.
Okay.
This means being aware of how your words, actions, even your nonverbal cues might affect them.
So like being mindful of my tone of voice or facial expressions.
Exactly. You also need to manage your own feelings and reactions.
Okay.
It's not about suppressing emotions, but about regulating them so they don't interfere with your professional objectivity.
That sounds hard.
It takes practice. Another crucial step is recognizing where your personal feelings end and your clients begin.
Okay.
It's about empathy without getting tangled up in their emotions.
Right. So you're being present and supportive without taking on their burdens.
You're getting it? Now here's the part where we get really honest with ourselves. Identifying our vulnerable areas.
Okay.
We all have those areas where we're more susceptible to biases or emotional reactivity.
Yeah. So it's about acknowledging our weaknesses and working on them.
Precisely. And then we've got controlling bias and maintaining objectivity.
Mm-hmm.
This is an ongoing effort, always questioning our assumptions and striving to see things from different perspectives.
So it's not a one-time thing. It's a constant process.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And finally, setting professional goals. This helps you stay focused on your growth and ensures you're constantly pushing yourself to be better.
Okay. This is starting to feel less overwhelming and more like an exciting challenge.
That's the spirit. Now buckle up, because we're about to explore how even our most basic human needs can impact our professional behavior.
Okay.
This visual lists some common ones. Need to be seen as helpful, need for control, need to be liked, need for status, or prestige need for social relationships, perfectionism.
Wow. I never thought about how these everyday needs can impact you professionally.
It's fascinating, right?
Yeah.
And the book emphasizes that being aware of these needs is crucial for preventing them from hijacking our professional judgment.
Interesting.
Now let's tackle something that's all too common in helping professions: workplace burnout.
Okay.
This visual highlights the key symptoms: cynicism, resentment, pessimism, fatigue, sleep disturbances, emotional numbness, feeling overwhelmed, loss of ability to experience joy, irritability, apathy, boredom, neglecting personal life.
That sounds rough.
It can be incredibly draining,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally.
So how does burnout impact ethical practice then?
Well, when you're burnt out, you're more likely to make mistakes,
Right.
be less patient,
Right.
struggle to focus, and even neglect your own self-care.
Oh, wow.
It's like your ethical compass starts to malfunction.
So recognizing and addressing burnout is essential.
You got it. And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dives.
Okay.
We'll explore strategies for both individuals and organizations to combat burnout and create a more supportive and ethical work environment.
Sounds good. So last time we were talking about burnout and how it can really impact our ethical practice.
Yeah, and the book highlights this two-pronged approach,
Mm-hmm.
you know, tackling burnout at both the individual level and at the organizational level.
Okay, so what can individuals do?
Well, first and foremost, boundaries.
Okay.
You've got to create those clear lines between your work life
Right.
and your personal life.
Mm-hmm.
This means setting limits on work hours, learning to say no, and making time for activities that recharge you.
So it's about protecting your time and your energy.
Exactly. And that leads right into the next point.
Mm-hmm.
Self-care.
Okay.
This isn't a luxury.
Right.
It's a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
We need to prioritize things like exercise healthy eating, sleep, and those activities that bring us joy.
It's like putting on your own oxygen mask first before you can help others.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes self-care isn't enough.
Okay.
And that's where support comes in.
Okay.
Reading out to colleagues, supervisors,
Yeah.
or even therapists can
Yeah.
provide that safe space
Right.
to process stress and gain perspective.
So it's about recognizing when you need help
Yes,
and not being afraid to ask for it.
absolutely. And finally, finding healthy ways to de-stress.
Okay.
Think meditation, yoga, spending time in nature, listening to music, anything that helps you unwind and recharge.
Those all sound great. But what about the organizations?
Yeah.
What can they do?
Organizations have a huge responsibility here.
Okay.
First off,
Mm-hmm.
promoting work-life balance.
Okay.
This means encouraging employees to take breaks, use their vacation time, and leave work at work.
So creating a culture that values time off
Yes,
and
exactly.
doesn't glorify overwork.
Doesn't glorify overworking. You got it.
Okay.
And then there's providing resources for well-being.
Okay.
This could be things like employee assistance programs, access to mental health services, or even just like comfortable break rooms where people can relax.
It's about showing employees that their well-being is a priority.
Absolutely. And finally, fostering a culture of open communication and support.
Okay.
This means creating an environment where people feel safe speaking up about their struggles, seeking help, and supporting each other.
So it's like creating a workplace that feels more like a community.
You got it.
Right.
Addressing burnout is a team effort.
Right.
When individuals and organizations work together,
Yeah.
they can create a much healthier and more ethical work environment.
I'm glad the book emphasizes that shared responsibility.
Me too. Now, remember that visual we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
The one with all the different types of dual relationships?
Yep. The one with sexual, business, friendships, social, and accidental encounters.
That's the one. Well, the book also has a visual that shows the flip side.
Okay.
Appropriate professional relationships.
Okay.
Take a look at these examples. Counselor, teacher, mentor, supporter, advocate.
So in all of these, you have to maintain that clear professional boundary.
Exactly. It's about making sure the relationship stays focused on the professional aspect and doesn't cross over into personal territory.
So like a doctor who treats a patient but doesn't invite them over for dinner.
Perfect example.
Okay.
And maintaining those boundaries helps to prevent conflicts of interest and ensure ethical practice.
Okay. I'm getting a clearer picture now.
Good.
Can we go back to the visual on privilege for a second?
Absolutely. This visual is so important
Yeah.
because it helps us to see those unearned advantages that some people have simply because of who they are.
Right.
Remember all of those different elements. Male, heterosexual, right-handed, employed, white, tall, thin, attractive, young, healthy, educated, wealthy homeowner, articulate, supported, married.
Yeah, it's a long list, but it really drives home the point.
It does.
That privilege is multifaceted.
Exactly. And the book really emphasizes that recognizing our own privileges is crucial
Right.
for ethical practice.
Mhm.
We need to be aware of how our backgrounds and our experiences might shape our perceptions and influence how we interact with clients.
So like, if I'm not aware of my own privileges, I might make assumptions about my clients
Yeah,
or act in ways that are insensitive
exactly.
or even harmful.
That's why self-awareness is so vital.
Yeah.
We need to examine our own biases and blind spots so that we can mitigate their impact on our work.
This is making me realize how important it is to self-reflect.
It really is. And speaking of self-awareness, the book provides this awesome visual that breaks down the key steps involved in developing it.
Okay, I'm ready for a refresher.
First up,
Yeah.
understand your impact on clients.
Okay.
This means being mindful of how your work, your actions, and even your nonverbal cues might affect them.
So being aware of your tone of voice and your facial expressions.
Exactly. And then there's managing your own feelings and reactions. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about learning to regulate them
Mm-hmm.
so they don't interfere with your professional objectivity.
That sounds like a hard skill to master.
It definitely takes practice. Another crucial step is recognizing where your personal feelings end
Okay.
and your clients begin.
Right.
It's about empathizing without getting tangled up in their emotions.
So being present and supportive, but not taking on their burdens as your own.
You're getting it. Now, here's the part where we get really honest with ourselves. Identifying our vulnerable areas.
Okay.
We all have those areas where we're more susceptible to biases
Yeah.
or emotional reactivity.
Right. So it's about acknowledging your weaknesses and working on them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And then there's controlling bias and maintaining objectivity.
Mhm.
This is an ongoing effort,
Yeah.
always questioning our assumptions and striving to see things from multiple perspectives.
It sounds like self-awareness is not a one-time thing.
Yeah.
It's a continuous journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And finally, there's setting professional goals.
Okay.
This helps you to stay focused on growth
Mm-hmm.
and ensures you're constantly pushing yourself to improve.
This visual is really helpful for breaking all this down.
I'm glad you find it useful. Now, remember that other visual that we looked at,
Yeah.
the one listing common personal needs that can impact professional behavior.
Yeah, the one with the need to be helpful, need for control, and all of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the book also delves into workplace burnout,
Okay.
and you'll notice some overlap here.
Okay.
When our personal needs aren't met in healthy ways,
Right.
they can contribute to burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And the book provides a really insightful visual
Okay.
that highlights the key symptoms of burnout.
I'm curious to see how this connects.
Here it is. Cynicism, resentment, pessimism, fatigue, sleep disturbances, emotional numbness, feeling overwhelmed, loss of ability to experience joy, irritability, apathy, boredom, neglecting personal life.
Wow, that's a long list.
It
It
is.
sounds like burnout can manifest in so many different ways.
It really can. And it can be incredibly draining, both personally and professionally.
So how does this burnout impact ethical practice?
Well, when you're burnt out, you're more likely to make mistakes, be less patient, struggle to focus, and even neglect your own self-care.
Right.
It's like your ethical compass starts to malfunction.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
So recognizing and addressing burnout is really essential.
you got it. And that's where we'll pick up in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore strategies for both individuals and organizations to combat burnout and create a more supportive and ethical work environment.
Wow.
So we've talked about so much already, from self-determination to those dual relationships to burnout.
It's a lot.
It is. But now let's kind of shift gears and focus on this idea of self-awareness
Okay.
that's been kind of woven throughout our discussion.
Okay.
And the book highlights self-awareness as absolutely essential for counselor competence.
Mm.
It's about understanding ourselves, our values, biases, strengths, weaknesses,
Right.
and how all of that influences how we work with clients.
So looking inward before we look outward.
Exactly. And the book breaks it down into several key steps. First up, understanding our impact on clients.
Okay.
This means being mindful of how our words, our actions, even our nonverbal cues might affect them.
So not just what you say, but how you say it.
Yeah, and even your body language.
Great.
And that leads right into managing our own feelings and reactions.
Okay.
This isn't about suppressing emotions,
Mhm.
but about regulating them so they don't interfere with our professional objectivity.
It's a hard skill to balance.
It does take practice.
Hmm.
Another crucial step is recognizing where our personal feelings end
Okay.
and our clients begin.
Right.
We need to be able to empathize
Mm-hmm.
without getting tangled up in their emotions.
So providing support without taking on their problems.
Exactly. Now, here's the part where we get really honest with ourselves.
Okay.
Identifying our vulnerable areas.
Okay.
We all have those areas where we're more susceptible to biases
Yeah.
or emotional reactivity.
It's about acknowledging those weaknesses and working on them.
Precisely. And then there's controlling bias
Mm.
and maintaining objectivity.
Yeah.
This is an ongoing effort, always questioning our assumptions and striving to see things from different perspectives.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely. It's a continuous process of learning growth and self-reflection.
Mhm.
And finally, setting professional goals helps us to stay focused
Right.
on that growth and ensures we're constantly pushing ourselves to be better.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces kind of fit together to create a really solid foundation
Yeah.
for ethical practice.
That's exactly it.
Mm.
Self-awareness is like the bedrock. Now, remember those visuals that we talked about?
Uh-huh.
The one listing common personal needs that can impact our professional behavior, and the one highlighting symptoms of workplace burnout.
Yeah, they were a lot.
They were. And the book emphasizes that these two concepts are very closely linked.
Okay.
When our personal needs aren't met in healthy ways,
Right.
they can contribute to burnout.
Yeah.
And unchecked burnout can lead to ethical slip-ups.
It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. And that's why the book provides specific strategies for addressing both personal needs and workplace burnout, both at the individual and organizational level.
This is giving me so much to think about, like in my own professional development and how I can create a healthier, more ethical work environment for myself and the people I work with.
That's fantastic to hear. Remember, ethical practice is an ongoing journey of learning, growth, and self-reflection.
Yeah.
And this deep dive has given us a solid roadmap to navigate that journey.
I feel a lot more equipped now.
That's wonderful. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into professionalism and ethics.
Wow.
We hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, and empowering.
It really has been an enlightening experience.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge, asking questions, and striving for ethical excellence.
And keep diving deep.